Okay, so now we're into part 3 of our discussion of the cerebrum. And so you can imagine if we've been talking about all these different functional areas, okay, so if we go back up to this image here are all these functional areas. Well, we just might want to coordinate things. So what we hear might want to be coordinated with what we see, with what we sense as far as touch or feel or pressure or all of those sorts of things. And we might also want to coordinate these sensations coming in with our voluntary movements going out, with how we make higher level decisions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have fibers that connect one region of the brain to another. So if we look at these fibers, we'll find them right here. Okay, so you're going to notice that there's 3 types of fibers. One are going to be association fibers. So association fibers, we can see them in red. We can also see them here in light blue. And they're going to connect something on one hemisphere to something else on the same hemisphere. So we might connect what we see on the left hemisphere with what we feel also and touch also on the left hemisphere. So that'll be an association fiber. Now, if you remember, we also discussed how right and left hemispheres, or I should say right and left hemispheres, also have unique functions. And so to deal with those, to help connect and coordinate those unique functions on each side, we're going to have what's called commissural fibers. Okay, so these connect, they're in red here, they connect one hemisphere with another. And then the last type of fiber we're going to see are projection fibers. These are connect cerebrum with other brain regions. So again, that's one of your 6, cerebrum is one of your 6, and you're going to connect it with cerebellum or pons or midbrain or diencephalon, any of those regions. So those are going to be the different types of fibers. And if you look here on your notes packets, it gives you this option here, the different fibers. So for example, commissural fibers. And if we look at the function, we're going to say connect right and left cerebral hemispheres. Okay. And so I'll let you do the other 2 fibers and see if you can come up with your function. If you run into trouble, you need to email your instructor. Now, I do want to point out 2 of the major fibers that we can see if we look in cross-section here. Okay. So we've seen this image before with the diencephalon, but let me point out a couple of other structures. So as a reminder, in pink here's the diencephalon, and here's our large spaghetti noodles that are our cerebrum. Okay. This large, thick, white band is called the corpus callosum. And if you're looking on your notes packet, here's the name written out right here, corpus callosum. Okay. And so this is one of those commissural fibers. It connects right to left half. The other one that we know of is the anterior commissure. It's right here on the anterior portion, and it also connects right and left hemispheres. Okay. One thing that I do want to point out, if we keep moving here through our text to page 490, this is a little bit more about this hemispheric lateralization, which is that right and left halves have different functions. Okay, so you may notice first off that some of the functions are the same. We have an auditory cortex on the left, we have an auditory cortex on the right. Okay, but we're going to have some extra integration centers or interpretive centers. So for example, here's the general interpretive center, also called Wernicke's area. Okay, and so this is found on the left side, and it's primarily responsible for language and mathematical calculations. Okay, But over here on the right side we have this area that's more responsible for spatial visualization and analysis. Okay, so those are just a couple of examples of right versus left functions that are unique. And so that's partly why we need these commissural fibers, is so that we can integrate these things. You also need it just so you can coordinate the right and left halves of your body. You don't want to move them separate from each other. The other thing that I want to talk about in this part of the cerebrum are these things called basal nuclei. Okay. Now if you remember, nuclei are just areas of gray matter deep inside the white matter, and so you can see those here in color. We're looking at a coronal section of the brain, so we've cut like this and we're looking at it in this direction. And so what these basal nuclei do, they're yet another part of the brain that helps to fine-tune and regulate motor movements. So it actually takes a lot to get us to have smooth motor movements that allow us to do the things we want to do. Okay? And so these are called the basal nuclei. They're part of the cerebrum, and certainly these three right here are in charge of helping to adjust motor movements. Okay. The amygdaloid body here, that's going to do something different, and we will talk about that in just a minute.